From Los Angeles, I'm Eddie Garcia. He's Doug Stolhand. Thanks for joining us for another edition of the Puck Podcast. It's Friday, April the 18th. This is our first period of a three-period podcast. In the first period, which some of you are watching on YouTube, we're recapping the past 5 days of the NHL regular season on and off the ice, as the regular season has now come to a close. Second period is our interview or special feature segment. We are going to preview the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And our third period is our fan feedback segment, where we have listener emails that we read, and we give you our off-ice reports, what's going on with our lives. You can also find all three periods of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what you are seeing on YouTube, please subscribe, and you get notified when our latest shows are out.
Eddie and I have been doing sports media combined for over 50 years, and we've been doing this here Puck Podcast for 19 full seasons now. We just completed our 19th season. Members of the NHL media, each of us, since about 2006. So long time NHL reporters covering the show. And here we cover all 32 teams equally. So if it's a big story in one city, it's a big story on this show. And we cover it all the games, all the signings, all the suspensions, all the trades, all the firings, and all the hirings. And we started always off with our big story of the week. And for that, I turn it over to my co-host, my good friend, and a man who is one of the hardest working men in sports media, as he hosts not one, not two, but three hockey podcasts. Eddie Garcia.
Yeah. Well, perhaps tonight that's true, as I am in the, the rubber match? No, that's not right. I'm in the middle of three podcasts that I'll be recording tonight, but be off tomorrow, so that'll be good.
But a little bit of the old school. We're doing it kind of in the middle of the night.
That's true. That's right. That's
back
right.
to our roots.
A little bit. Let's not make a habit of it. The NHL regular season is over. The Stanley Cup playoffs are about to begin. For those of us whose favorite teams are in the postseason, buckle up for the roller coaster ride. For those who didn't make it in, well, you can relax and enjoy some stress-free playoff hockey. But we need to recap how we got from there to here and look back at the final days of the 2024-25 NHL regular season. For that, we go back to last Sunday, where we had 9 games on the schedule. And let's begin with the Sharks and Flames, because this was a big game for Calgary. They could not lose in regulation or they would be eliminated from the playoffs. They had to have at least 1 point to stay alive, and they would get 3 third-period goals for a huge 5-2 win to stay alive. Yegor Sharangovich, 2 goals, numbers 16 and 17. Dustin Wolf, 28 saves, and I did enjoy them playing hungry like the Wolf when he made a big save. So Calgary, for the moment, staying alive in the playoff race at that point. For San Jose, they started a guy named Georgi Romanov in net. He is now 0-6 in his NHL career. Is there? Put that guy out there. We want to get a better draft pick or a chance at one. And also San Jose star Macklin Celebrini had no points in this one.
Yeah, Dustin Wolf smells like he sounds. And he got his 36th career win, and that is tied for 4th most by an American goalie as a rookie in NHL history. Now, not all the wins were this season, but he had some wins last season. He is still considered a rookie, though, so this is still considered his rookie year. 36 wins, 4th most by an American goalie in NHL history as a rookie. Jimmy Howard had 38. John Gibson and Alex Nedeljkovic had 37. Now Dustin Wolf and Ryan Miller are tied with 36 each.
So the Flames are still alive. How about the Columbus Blue Jackets? They had to win to keep their playoff hopes alive for another day, and they would get that win, beating the Washington Capitals on the road 4-1 as they swept the home-and-home series on back-to-back days against the Caps. So the Blue Jackets still alive for that final playoff spot in the East, thanks to a 4th straight win. Adam Fantilli had 2 goals, numbers 28 and 29, as the 3rd overall pick in 2023, turning into an absolute star. Alexander Ovechkin did play in this game and scored career goal number 896. He scored on Columbus goalie Jet Greaves, the 186th different goalie the Great 8 has scored on, extending his own record. But Greaves gets the win and can say, I allowed a goal to Alexander Ovechkin, but I also beat his team that night.
And both teams that needed to win did, and Adam Fantilli became the 4th player in Blue Jackets history to record a multi-goal game on consecutive days. So he had 2 back-to-back days of multiple goal games. Patrick Laine also did it. Scott Hartnell and R.J. Umberger also did that for the Blue Jackets.
Good news, bad news for the Winnipeg Jets. We'll start with the good news. Actually, we'll start with the bad news. Right? They always say, tell me the bad news first, get that out of the way.
Right.
They lost at home to the Edmonton Oilers 4-1. The Oilers did not have Leon Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, Matthias Ekholm, Trent Frederick, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, or Jake Wallman. They did have Connor McDavid, who had 2 assists. Corey Perry gets his 18th, and Stuart Skinner was back in net after missing 3 weeks following a hit in net and suffering an injury. He had 17 saves in the win. So nice road win against the top team in the NHL. Edmonton at that point was 2 points back of the Kings in the race for home ice advantage in their first round playoff matchup. I mentioned the good news for the Jets. Thanks to Washington's loss, they clinched the President's Trophy for the first time in franchise history. But is that good news? Of course, the President's Trophy, we have not had a team in a full season win the President's Trophy and go on to win the Stanley Cup since the 2007-8 Red Wings. The Blackhawks did it in a lockout-shortened season in 2012-13, and the last Canadian team to win the President's Trophy, the Vancouver Canucks, in 2012. They did not go on to win the Stanley Cup, as you probably know.
Yeah, they are the first Canadian club to win it since them, as you mentioned. But as we've talked about, maybe both on and off air, you'd rather win it than not, to have that home ice advantage throughout the playoffs. For as long as you go, you have game 1 and game 2 in your building. And if it goes game 7, you've got that on home ice. And as we all know, as hockey fans, the NHL is the one sport where there is an actual advantage to being the home team on the playing surface, and that is last change. You get to see who the other team sends out there before you decide who you will send out to face them. No other sport allows that kind of advantage. So, I mean, maybe you could say baseball because they get to bat last, but it's a big advantage in a pivotal playoff series. So Winnipeg, I'm sure, delighted to do it. And are you sure it's the first time in franchise history? Because I thought the Atlanta Thrashers won multiple President's Trophies back when we were covering them. Is that not the case?
Did you think that?
I mean, seemed like they were great to me. Great team. I don't know why they moved.
I don't either. It's a mystery.
Yeah.
The Maple Leafs could clinch the Atlantic Division title, just their 3rd division title since expansion, with a win and a Lightning's loss. The Leafs, though, did their part, 4-1 win over the Hurricanes for their 50th win of the season. All the big boys showed up in this one. William Nylander, his 45th. John Tavares, his 38th. Austin Matthews, his 31st. Also career goal number 399 for Matthews. It was just the 9th regulation home loss this season for Carolina. Of course, they had nothing to play for. They were locked in to face the New Jersey Devils in the first round.
Yeah, they're locked into that first round bye. And for the Maple Leafs, Morgan Riley.
Oh,
wow. Come on now.
It's
Is anybody picking the Devils? I saw even the Devil himself, the New Jersey Devil mascot, his bracket. I saw it, and he had the Hurricanes.
Wow. He is evil.
Morgan Riley, by the way, had his 13th 3-assist game in this one, passing Tomas Kaberle for 2nd on the Leafs all-time list. He's got a ways to go to catch first, though. Borje Salming had 29 3-assist games with the Maple Leafs as a defenseman.
So we told you the Leafs could clinch the Atlantic with a win and a Tampa Bay loss. That did not happen as the Lightning get a convincing 7-3 win over the Buffalo Sabres. Jake Gensel, 2 goals, numbers 39 and 40. Nikita Kucherov, 2 goals, numbers 35 and 36, putting him at 117 points and into the lead for the Art Ross Trophy, which it certainly seems like he's going to win since Nathan MacKinnon is apparently sitting out the rest. Yeah.
Well, no, they were done playing on Sunday.
Oh, that's right. They were done playing.
Yeah.
That's right. He might even won it anyway, even if McKinnon would have kept playing. Who knows? Right. But Tampa Bay hits the 100-point plateau on the season. At that point, they were 4 points back at Toronto for first in the Atlantic. Tampa Bay also 2 points up on Florida for second in the division, and home ice in a potential first round matchup. There was one injury note to pass along for Tampa Bay. Oliver Bjorkstrand, a forward they picked up from Seattle at the trade deadline, week to week with a lower body injury.
And Nikita Kucherov, that was his 50th career multi-goal game. So just those games alone, he has over 100 goals in his career in just those 50. Guy's had a hell of a career. And Jake Gensel reaching 40 goals in his first season with the Lightning. He is the second player to have 40 or more goals in his first season with the Lightning. Who was the other player, Eddie? I will buy you a 2-liter bottle of your favorite Sunkist orange soda if you get this right.
I'm going to say Rob Ramage.
A great pull, But Brian Bradley had 42 goals back in 92-93 for the Lightning.
I think my buddy Bruce Campbell might have known that. The Senators pick up a 4-3 overtime win over the Flyers. Tim Stützle had a pair of goals, numbers 22 and 23, including the overtime game winner on the power play. Still no Brady Tkachuk at this point for Philadelphia. Matvei Michkov for the Flyers, no points in this one as we check in on the rookie race for points and goals.
Yeah, obviously a good win for Ottawa, but they're pretty much locked in as well. No reason to rush Brady Tkachuk back. They expect him back for the first game of the playoffs.
The Islanders have been eliminated from the playoffs. New Jersey locked into facing Carolina. They would match up in a game that didn't mean much. And in the end, it was the Islanders with a 1-0 win. Ilya Sorokin, 25-save shutout for him. There was a controversial hit in this game. New Jersey's Paul Cotter put a shoulder into the head of the Islanders' Adam Pelech, bloodying him. Cotter was given a 5-minute major in a game misconduct. He would end up being suspended for the final 2 games of the regular season, but he will not miss any playoff games for New Jersey.
I hope when he takes the ice, they play Welcome Back, Cotter.
I don't. The Bruins knocked off the Penguins 4-1. David Pastrnak, 2 assists to give him 104 points on the season. Fabian Lysell, first NHL goal. He was a first-round pick of the Bruins in 2021. And Jonas Korpisalo, 23 saves in net. And finally, the Colorado Avalanche were down 2-0 in the third period in Anaheim against the Ducks. They then scored 4 unanswered goals for a 4-2 win. Wyatt Amat scored his first NHL goal. Charlie Coyle gets the game winner late, as Colorado was resting players in this one. No McKinnon, no Makar. Avs locked into that number 3 spot in the Central. They will face Dallas in the first round. This was the regular season finale for the Avalanche, as you mentioned. So they would be done 6 days off rest at least before they would play their first playoff game. And updating the story we talked about last week, Gabriel Landeskog played the 2-game stint in the AHL. He has now been recalled to the NHL roster for the Avalanche.
Yeah, the season is not over, but their season is, so they can call him back up. There's no salary cap left for the Avalanche. He did score a goal in the AHL. He played regular minutes. What a boost that is going to be emotionally to have the captain back in the locker room after multiple years off, and adding him to the depth for this roster as a motivating factor and a good quality player that helped them win a Stanley Cup last time he was on NHL ice. So huge addition for the Avalanche, and a very unexpected one from the outside looking in. Obviously, he's been working hard and putting in incredible work, and credit to him and the training staff for getting him back to being healthy enough after the knee injury he suffered.
Yeah, never bad to add your captain to the roster for the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, some teams trade their captain.
Some do. That's true.
You know, the Rangers.
Yeah.
We'll talk about them in a little bit. They might have used some leadership.
We'll move ahead to Monday now, where we had 6 games. The Canadiens, once again, had to win to punch their playoff ticket. They were at home against the Blackhawks. They would not get that win. They would lose 4-3 in a shootout. Chicago's Frank Nazar with the only goal in the shootout. Bizarre scene, though, in this one, as Nazar's shootout attempt was initially ruled no goal. Then Patrick Laine took his shootout attempt for Montreal, and then they called down to say, hey, wait a minute. He actually scored. Nazar scored. So the goal counted. It didn't, and Laine's attempt counted. He didn't get to do it over, and that ended up being the game winner. I don't know that I've ever seen that before. Now, they claim that Toronto was calling before Laine was to attempt his shot, and they didn't stop it in time.
No, the guy was on the line. He was on the line with his lady. You know, he's like, hey, look, gone into a shootout. I'm going to be a little bit
holy crap, that went in. Hold on a second.
No, it's what I don't understand about watching that is, where did they think the puck went? The puck was literally stuck in the goal.
It was like underneath like the cup holder, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, he shoots it. If he missed it, where did it go?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's true. Although I got to admit, watching it live, I just thought he didn't score, especially when usually the shooter will tell you, right? You know, they know, and he didn't react like he scored. So, okay.
It was baffling. And there was a lot of confusion about whether or not Laine would get to retake it. But why would he? Is it going to change his approach? Because, hell, Nazar scored. I better really try on this one.
No,
No,
that's
it counted. It was fair, but very odd, very odd. Now, Ivan Demidov did make his debut in this game.
I was going to mention that.
Well, go right ahead.
Well, in the loss, Habs' recent addition, Ivan Demidov, scored his first NHL goal in his first NHL game. Also, Lane Hudson had an assist. He passes Chris Chelios for the most points by a rookie defenseman in franchise history, 65. But third straight game, the Habs could have wrapped up a playoff spot with a win, and they have failed to do so, keeping the door ajar.
Yeah, Columbus still alive in this one. And Demidov actually had a goal and an assist in his first period, which ties the record for most points in a debut period by a teenager in NHL history. The others that have done that have had 2 points in their first period as teenagers in the NHL, Macklin Celebrini back at the start of this very season. So it's not that long ago. Austin Matthews and Jonathan Huberdeau, others have also done it, but they had their 2 points, but both of them were assists. Those players that I mentioned all had a goal and an assist. Nobody has had 2 goals in the first period of their first game as a teenager.
Kings shut out the Oilers in Edmonton 5-0. With that win, LA secured home ice advantage in their first round playoff matchup against Edmonton. Darcy Kemper and David Riddick had a combined shutout as Kemper was pulled in the third period to avoid any kind of injury. Neither one of them get credit for a shutout. It goes down as a team shutout. Kem Fiala gets his career high 35th goal of the year. Adrian Kempe is 34th. Oilers defenseman Darnell Nurse was given a 5-minute major in a game misconduct when he took down Kings forward Quentin Byfield in front of the net. And while Byfield was laying face first on the ice, he cross-checked him in the back of the head. Byfield left the game, didn't return, would miss the Kings' next game. Nurse was given a 1-game suspension, meaning that he would miss the regular season finale, but will not miss any playoff games.
Yeah, it's a absolute chicken bleep suspension by the NHL. If you're going to suspend the guy, give it some teeth. That has absolutely no bearing at all. Byfield, I don't believe, was actually injured. I think it was the same thing, take him out to prevent further injury, and that's why they kept him out of the second game. The game meant nothing to the Kings, that final game, or the rest of the week, so no reason to play him anymore. But an absolute cheap shot from Darnell Nurse against a guy that's in a prone position, and a headshot at that. And if you're intentionally hitting a guy in the back of the head with your stick that can't defend himself, that's got to be more than a 1-game suspension. I mean, it's an absolute joke to give a guy a 1-game suspension for the final game of the regular season, which has no meaning to his team anyway.
I could not have said it better myself. Stars lost their season high 6th straight game with a 6-4 defeat in Detroit against the Red Wings. They were down 3-2 entering the third, and then Detroit outscored Dallas 4-1. So Dallas had the 3-2 lead in the third, outscored 4-1. Alex DeBrincat gets his 37th. Lucas Raymond is 27th. In the loss for Dallas, Wyatt Johnston gets his 33rd.
Patrick Kane playing in his 1,300th career NHL game and is the 4th active player to reach that milestone. I will once again buy you a 2-liter bottle of your favorite orange soda if you can name me the other 3 players that are active players that have played 1,300 games or more.
All right. I wish you would have. Marc-Andre Fleury?
I'm afraid no.
No.
So you're already lost. It's Jordan Staal, Brent Burns, and Ryan Suter.
Okay. That wasn't too hard. If I would have had some time to think about it, I might have gotten 2 of those.
Yeah. Ryan Suter, yeah. Jordan Staal, yeah. Burns was a tough one, I thought.
I probably wouldn't have got Staal, to be honest with you. I probably would have got Burns. Rangers beat the Panthers 5-3 in Florida. New York scored the final 4 goals of the game to rally for the win. Vincent Trocheck is 25th. JT Miller is 22nd. That was the Rangers' first win of the season when trailing by 2 or more goals going into the third period. For Florida, Sam Reinhart had 2 goals, numbers 38 and 39. That loss locked the Panthers into the 3 spot in the Atlantic, meaning they will start their defense of the Stanley Cup on the road.
On the road, but not far away from home, as they will be an all-Florida matchup there. So great for an Eastern Conference team. That's pretty good travel for Florida. They're both teams get to stay in the state, so good there. But it's one of those wins for the New York Rangers now that is only costing them draft positioning, because they've already been eliminated. And what are we doing here, winning games this late in the year?
Utah Hockey Club down the Predators in Nashville 7-3. Clayton Keller had 2 goals, numbers 28 and 29. Logan Cooley is 25th, and goalie Matt Villalta, 27 saves for his first career NHL win.
Clayton Keller, the third player in NHL history to have 60 or more assists in a club's inaugural season. Eddie Garcia, I will buy you a 2-liter bottle of your favorite orange soda if you can name the other 2.
No chance.
Well, one of them is the free space on the bingo card. Wayne Gretzky with the first year for the Edmonton Oilers in 79-80. And the other, absolutely no chance, Mike Rogers with the Hartford Whalers, also in 1979-80.
Never heard of him.
I thought he was great in MASH.
Yeah. Yes, he was. Much better than the replacement. The Canucks got by the Sharks 2-1 in overtime. Jake DeBrusk, overtime game winner, his 28th. While in his NHL debut, goalie Nikita Tolopolo made 15 saves in the victory. In the loss, Macklin Celebrini gets his 25th goal, but that was 10 straight losses for San Jose.
Did San Jose start that other dude that is now 0 for 7?
I don't know. I could check if you really want to know.
It's not that important.
It really isn't, but I still,
All right. I'm just curious if they just kept trotting him out there to see if he could have the opposite of the best start ever for an NHL career. First guy to lose his first 10 starts.
No, it was Alexander Georgiev who got the start in that one and was then later told in the week, we don't have plans for you in our future. So
at least they didn't make him fly cross country to tell him that.
True.
Did you see that story?
Probably.
The New York Jets made Aaron Rodgers fly into the team headquarters to tell him, we have no use for you next year. Thanks for coming.
Well, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. He'll probably be the next quarterback of my
and made him pay for the flight.
Yeah, he can afford it.
Of course.
Let's move on to Tuesday, where we had 10 games, and the Blues would clinch a playoff spot with a regulation win over Utah, and they would get that win 6-1 the final. St. Louis jumping out to a 4-0 first period lead and cruising into victory. Jordan Kyrou had 2 goals, numbers 25 and 26, and rookie Jimmy Snuggerud scored his first NHL goal. He was a Blues first-round pick in 2022, joined the team after his Minnesota team was eliminated from the NCAA hockey tournament. St. Louis returning to the playoffs after missing the last 2 seasons.
Pavel Buchnevich becoming the 5th player in franchise history with 4 consecutive 20-goal seasons from the start of his tenure with the Blues. So his first 4 seasons with the Blues, all 20-goal seasons. The others to do that, Pierre Turgeon, Doug Gilmour, Jorgen Peterson, and Brendan Shanahan. So Pavel Buchnevich off to a great start to his career and will be a key part of the Blues' hopeful long run in these playoffs.
So the Blues are in. So are the Minnesota Wild, who clinched a playoff spot. They only needed a point against the Ducks. They got it. 3-2 overtime win. Joel Eriksson Ek with the goalie pulled, scored with 20 seconds left to get him that point. And then for good measure, they won it in overtime on Matt Boldy's 27th goal of the year. Also a nice move by the Wild after knowing that they had secured that point in the playoff spot. They put Marc-Andre Fleury in net for overtime. The Wild win. He gets career victory number 575 in his final regular season game. So Minnesota returning to the playoffs after missing out last year, and they earn the number 1 wild card spot. They will face the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round. St. Louis will take on the Winnipeg Jets as the number 2 wild card team.
Marc-Andre Fleury knows the Vegas Golden Knights very well, so that'll be an interesting matchup if he ever gets in between the pipes. But for the Wild, they're hoping he doesn't. But it was a nice touch to put him in. It was a good overtime and a great walk-off. I think that is his NHL record 71st overtime win for Marc-Andre Fleury. So assuming he does not add any in the playoffs, that will be the record for others to chase going forward. Minnesota has now, you mentioned they missed the playoffs last year. They've now made the playoffs, though, 11 of the last 13 years, which is tied with the Capitals and the Lightning for the most over that stretch. So they are frequent visitors. Now, the other 2, Washington and Tampa, have both won cups in that stretch. Minnesota has not. Is this their year? We will discuss in the second period. Also, Minnesota, one of 4 franchises in NHL history who every time they've won a playoff series, it has been as the lower-seeded team. So it may be a good sign that they are the lower-seeded team in a wild card. The others to do that, Columbus, the New York Americans, and Seattle So those are the only other teams, and I don't think the New York Americans are going to be adding to that record anytime soon.
Well, you never know. Because of the wins by the Blues and the Wild, that eliminated Calgary from the playoffs. The Flames, though, would beat the Golden Knights 5-4 in a shootout. They were down 3-1 in the third, stormed back with 3 goals that ended up sending the game into, beyond regulation. Morgan Frost won it in the shootout. He also scored a goal in regulation while Nazem Kadri added his 33rd of the season. Third straight year, the Flames, though, will not qualify for the postseason, but they had a hell of a run at it.
Yeah, much better. Like I said last week, there's a difference between missing the playoffs like the Rangers did and the Canucks and missing the playoffs the way the Blue Jackets and Flames do, which is at least you were you played some meaningful games. You got some good run there. There's something to build on for the future. And the Flames got to be pretty happy with the season, even though it ended before they were ready.
Well, the Blue Jackets won their 5th straight game to stay alive for the final wildcard spot in the East, even though Doug just spoiled the result of what happened.
I think people knew.
3-0 shutout win over the Flyers in Philadelphia. Jet Greaves, 29 saves for his 2nd shutout in the past 3 games. He had allowed a total of 3 goals in his last 4 starts, all wins. Adam Fantilli gets his 30th of the season. Zach Werenski, an assist for his 80th point, which is a career high. To get into the playoffs, the Blue Jackets would have to win their final game at home against the Islanders while also having Montreal lose its season finale in regulation at home against the Hurricanes. For Philadelphia, 10th time this season they were shut out.
I listened to this game, and Bob McElligott working the mic by himself for the Blue Jackets radio because they're too cheap to hire a color commentator on the road. And he had a first period intermission interview, and they were talking to one of the players, and they said it exactly right. We're still playing meaningful games here. It's game 81, and we're still in the playoff race. So it was an excited locker room. They were very energetic, and I was happy for them that they won this game. And I was hoping that they would have a chance in that final game against the Islanders because it was on home ice, and I thought, what a great way to end a season that started in tragedy, then clinching a playoff spot on home ice in the final game. Would have been great.
I was hoping for that as well. The Maple Leafs won the Atlantic Division with a 4-0 shutout of the Sabres in Buffalo. Toronto will face Ottawa in the first round of the playoffs. Leafs goalie Anthony Stolhand has made 35 saves for his 3rd shutout of Buffalo. Austin Matthews, his 32nd goal, 400th goal of his career, 6th fastest to 400 goals. The others, Gretzky, Bossy Lemieux, Brett Hull, Jari Kurri. Mitch Marner gets his 27th for his 100th point of the season. 7th Leaf player in history to have a 100-point season. Austin Matthews has done it twice. Doug Gilmour, your single season points leader with 117.
Yeah, and Austin Matthews, the 6th fastest player in NHL history to get to 400 goals. Wayne Gretzky, of course, was the fastest. Mike Bossy, Mario Lemieux, Brett Hull, and Jari Kurri all beat him to the record.
Tell me you're not listening to me without telling me you're not listening to me.
Did you just tell that?
Yes.
I don't listen to a word you say.
Clearly.
How about this? He's the 2nd player to do it behind Matt Sundin.
Okay, I didn't say that.
All right. How about Mitch Marner becoming the 4th player in franchise history with a 100-point season? Did you say that?
Yeah, actually I did.
Did you name the other 3?
No, but I named who has the most.
Wow. They're tied. 3 of them are all tied.
Doug Gilmour. And I said Austin Matthews has done it twice.
Yeah, Darryl Sittler did as well.
First round playoff preview. The Lightning handled the Panthers at home 5-1. Tampa Bay jumping out to an early 3-0 lead and then cruising to the win. Florida rested several top players while Tampa Bay had all their big guns in the lineup. Braden Point gets his 42nd. Jake Gensel his 41st. Nikita Kucherov his 37th and had an assist to give him 121 points. Of course, Andrei Vasilevsky started because he plays every game. He had 23 saves. In the loss, Brad Marchand, his 23rd goal of the year. That was the season finale for Florida. Also in this game, Panthers forward Jesse Puljujarvi got a match penalty for a hit to the head of Tampa Bay's Mitchell Chaffee. That resulted in a 2-game suspension for the first 2 playoff games. Puljujarvi not a key member of the Panthers. If he was going to be in the lineup, be a 4th-line player. But it brings up the point again that you made. So we had 3 suspensions this week. Paul Cotter, 2 games for illegal head contact. Jesse Puljujarvi, 2 games for illegal head contact. Darnell Nurse, 1 game for illegal head contact.
Yeah, and none of them are known headhunters. It's not like any of the other guys had long histories of misdeeds. So it's just poor work. It's typical by the NHL, though.
I
They
was
don't
not
want to.
surprised. I was not
No, but it's
surprised.
just embarrassing because you can't emphasize player safety and say you care about headshots if you're not going to punish these things. And for games that guys are sitting out voluntarily, it's not even a punishment to Darnell Nurse to sit out the last game.
No.
Rest your legs. We'll see you for game 1 of the playoffs. You got it. It's a 1 day off. So it's terrible. We should mention, by the way, I know you're wrapping up here, but we forgot to mention that Lane Hudson tied the single season NHL record for most assists by a rookie defenseman with 60, tied by the other. It was Larry Murphy way back in the day.
I think that might be coming up.
Wasn't that today? Wasn't that their game that they just, or is that tomorrow's game? Wednesday?
Yeah.
All right. Never mind then.
My goodness. The Capitals got by the Islanders 3-1. Dylan Strome, all 3 goals for Washington, numbers 27, 28, and 29. Charlie Lindgren, who may very well be the Caps game 1 starter, had 32 saves in net. For the Islanders, Matt Martin had an emotional press conference before the game. He didn't announce his retirement, but talked about his time with the Islanders, which apparently is coming to an end. They gave him a letter to wear on his jersey. He was wearing the A in this one. As he was in the starting lineup. He was named the number 1 star of the game. Played 16 seasons in the NHL, parts of 14 of them on Long Island, with 2 different stints with the team, totaling 854 games.
He may not be announcing his retirement, but the NHL is. I can't see another team signing him. Can you?
Well, if there's expansion, there's always more jobs available.
Well, it's not going to be this year, though.
No,
they're not going to announce a team this summer. So I think he's. I'm sure he'd like to play, and maybe he will latch on with somebody in a. He'll probably get a PTO in camp next year, but I don't see it.
Kings edge the Kraken 6-5. Samuel Helenius had 2 goals, numbers 3 and 4. Adrian Kempe is 35th. Warren Fogle is 24th. In their season finale, Seattle's Jaden Schwartz had his 26th goal. Kraken will miss the playoffs for a second straight season. Devils defeat the Bruins in Boston 5-4 in overtime. Defenseman Brian Dumoulin scores the overtime game winner for New Jersey. In the loss, David Pastrnak gets his 43rd goal of the season. He also had an assist to finish the year with 106 points. Boston losing their final game of the season. And they were one of 5 teams that will miss the playoffs this year after making it the previous year. First time since 2016, the Bruins will not be participating in the playoffs.
If you go back to the beginning of the season, and I tell you, 5 teams that made the playoffs last year are going to miss the playoffs this coming season, there's no way we would have guessed the 5 teams that were going to miss the playoffs. Vancouver, we probably could have, maybe. But the Rangers, no chance we would have thought they would miss the playoffs.
I agree with that. I think we all kind of thought Boston would slide.
Boston, yes. Boston, I'm not saying is a surprise, but I'm talking more about the 5 teams that you were talking about.
Yeah.
When it's basically 1/3 of the playoff field is out the next year. That's crazy.
All right, on to Wednesday, where we had once again the Montreal Canadiens with their fate in their own hands with a point against Carolina at home. They would clinch a playoff spot. Well, they would not only get a point, they would get 2 with a 4-2 victory. Defenseman Caden Gooley scored 2 goals, numbers 5 and 6. Nick Suzuki gets his 30th. Montreal is back in the playoffs after missing the postseason the last 3 years, and they will face the Washington Capitals in the first round.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was their last playoff appearance the year they went to the Stanley Cup final?
I believe it was, yes.
Yeah. And so it's been a quick rebuild for them to get back into the playoffs. And as I mentioned, Lane Hudson with his 60th assist, tying the rookie record for most assists by a rookie defenseman set by Larry Murphy back in 1980-81.
Dallas Stars lost their season-high 7th straight game, 5-1 loss to the Predators. Jake Ottinger allowed 5 goals on 22 shots before getting pulled. Tyler Seguin did return to the Stars lineup, but Jason Robertson left with an injury, was wearing a brace on his knee after the game. And it also looks like defenseman Miro Heiskanen is not going to start the playoffs for Dallas. As for Nashville, they end the season with a win, but obviously a very disappointing season for the Predators.
Yeah, this is they won the offseason and lost everything after that, as John Aller said in a pregame for the Ducks. They had such great expectations, and everybody thought this is a team that made the playoffs last year, and then they added Stamkos in March or so. They're just going to keep getting better, and it has been an absolute disaster. I think they regret the decision to trade the young goalie to San Jose and go all in with UC Saros. I think now if you could do it over again, you'd say, let's go with the young guy and start building around them. But this team could be in for a little bit of a struggle, Nashville, because nobody's getting younger on that team. And what's going to change dramatically? Now, you and I have been wondering all year why they didn't change head coaches. Will Andrew Burnett be the first coach fired now that the season is over?
No, clearly not. I mean,
well, I'm just saying, not firing him during the season because there's nothing to salvage. But you don't think they'll change head coaches this offseason?
No, I don't. I mean,
No?
if you were going to fire him, you would have fired him a long time ago. I think for whatever reason, Barry Trotz thinks, you know what, this just wasn't our year, but we're going to come back next year with the same team and the same coach, and it's going to be different. Maybe it will be. It's possible, but like I said, if they would have had a stretch at some point in the season where they were just clicking, I'd be like, okay, maybe I could see it, but they really never were.
They never played good hockey.
No, they never had like a 10-game winning streak or anything like that.
Well,
it was always,
but you know what I'm saying. I know what you're saying.
yeah. Final regular season game for both the Jets and Ducks, and it was Winnipeg with a 2-1 overtime win. Mark Scheifele, 39th goal of the season, was the overtime game winner. Connor Hellebuyck did start in this game, 30 saves for his 47th win of the season, extending his own franchise record. Also 56th win of the year for the Jets for 116 points. Those are both franchise records. A couple of signings as far as news for the Jets as well. They signed defenseman Neil Pionk to a 6-year, $42 million extension, and forward Alex Iafallo to a 3-year, $11 million extension.
Well, Connor Hellebuyck also became the 5th goalie to win the Jennings Trophy in consecutive seasons. It was first presented back in 81-82, so this is not an award that goes back to the beginning of hockey. But Martin Brodeur won it in back-to-back years. Roman Turek also won it in back-to-back years. How about that? Patrick Waugh, of course, and Brian Hayward, the Ducks announcer, won it in back-to-back years. How about that? So Connor Hellebuyck joining that illustrious company. 2 Hall of Famers and 2 guys that are whatever happened to's.
Oilers shut out the Sharks in San Jose 3-0 in the final regular season game for both. Stuart Skinner, 18 saves in the shutout for Edmonton. Connor McDavid, for some reason, played in this game. He did not play against the Kings. He had an assist for his 100th point of the year. I can't believe
that's why he played.
Really? That's that important to risk him to get his 100th point of the season? Okay. San Jose's Macklin Celebrini did not have a point. His rookie season comes to an end with 25 goals and 38 assists for 63 points. Leon Draisaitl didn't play the final 7 games, I think it was, of the season, but he still won the Rocket Richard Trophy for the leading goal scorer easily. 52 goals he finishes with, and that was 7 goals more than William Nylander.
Yeah, absolutely amazing what he was able to do when he was on the ice, and he is expected to be back for game 1.
Sharks also announced that veteran forward Logan Couture will not be able to resume his hockey career. He's been dealing with an inflammation of his joint between the 2 pelvic bones, which causes lower abdominal and hip and groin pain. So Logan Couture not going to continue playing hockey again.
Yeah, and you see this a lot, so I'm not going to say it's classy by the Oilers specifically, but they stuck around to shake his hand after the game and give him respect for his
Where
his
was
career.
he?
Huh? He came out on the ice.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, he took a lap?
Because it was their last game, so yeah. He was in his suit.
Oh, okay.
And they all went by and gave him a handshake, and Corey Perry, for whatever reason, longtime Pacific Division rival, had a nice conversation with them. They seem to be friends of some sort, but or at least respect each other. But yeah, so that was nice to see. And you saw that a lot with, Marc-Andre Fleury's last games. Teams were lining up to shake his hand as well. I know the Ducks did after he beat him in overtime.
Golden Knights down the Canucks in Vancouver 4-1, ending a very disappointing season for the Canucks. Vegas scoring 3 third-period goals to get the win. Pavel Dorofeev, who continues his big year, 35th goal of the season. Jack Eichel back in the lineup for Vegas. He gets his 28th, and Cole Schwindt scored his first NHL goal.
And you mentioned Logan Couture won't be playing anymore. That was Brock Besser's final game with the Vancouver Canucks, almost assuredly.
Red Wings knock off the Devils in New Jersey 5-2. Alex DeBrincat gets his 38th of the season. Dylan Larkin his 30th as New Jersey ends the regular season on a 4-game home losing skid. On to Thursday, 9 games, final day of the NHL regular season. And regardless of the circumstances, always fun when Alexander Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby go against each other. And they both did play in the regular season finale for both teams. Pittsburgh getting the 5-2 win over Washington. Brian Rust, 2 goals, numbers 30 and 31. Sidney Crosby gets his 33rd. And Alexander Ovechkin scored his 44th of the season, career goal number 897. He's 3 away from 900. Clay Stevenson started in net for the Capitals, an AHL call-up, 26-year-old. He gets to tell his grandkids one day that he played with Alexander Ovechkin and he played against Sidney Crosby.
And they will say, sure, Grandpa, let's get you back to your room. No, I swear. This was an interesting game that they would both play. And I know that Ovechkin, you mentioned he's 3 away. Any goal he scores in the playoffs does not add to that total. These are regular season goals only for whatever reason. So if he has 3 goals in the playoffs, that will not give him 900 in his career, even though we all know he's scored more than 900 goals in his career.
Also, one note for Pittsburgh, veteran defenseman Chris Letang did not play in this game, had surgery to close a small hole in his heart. I'm almost positive, as we have done this show many years, he's had this procedure before. So I guess it's not a big deal, but as we say, when it's your heart or your brain, it always seems to be a big deal. But
yeah, it's only minor surgery if it's not you. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was. I don't think it's very classy for them to play wholehearted by extreme whenever he scores a goal.
It is interesting though that he played the entire season but not play the last game.
Right.
I don't know. Battle of teams that are going to the playoffs in Ottawa between the Senators and the Hurricanes. This one is a wild one. Sens scored first 3 goals. Carolina then scored the next 5, and then Ottawa scored the final 4. 7-5. Senators win. Drake Batherson, 2 goals, numbers 25 and 26. Adam Gaudette, 2 goals, numbers 18 and 19. Brady Tkachuk played in this game after missing the last 8. Took a high stick to the face, left and didn't return. They said it was precautionary. Frederik Andersen allowed 7 goals on 32 shots. Linus Ullmark allowed 5 goals on 33 shots. Those guys are, I think, expected to be
not expected to be. They will be in, yeah.
Yeah, I think Frederik Andersen probably will start game 1 of the playoffs as well. So
100%. Although they could play that kid from San Jose and they'll beat the Devils. It's New Jersey's going to get absolutely rolled. They have you just told it. They lost 4 straight on home ice. They have no momentum going in. Jack Hughes is out. No chance. So it'll be that's an interesting matchup, though, because the game didn't matter to either team. So why play the number 1 goalie? Why risk anything in that game? Why not get an AHL call-up, a start just to
call up your Clay Stevenson?
100%. 100%. Use the e-bug if you need to.
E-bug. Rangers shut off the Lightning 4-0. Igor Shesterkin, 27 saves in net in the shutout. Mika Zibanejad, 2 goals, numbers 19 and 20. Tampa Bay still played their top guys. Kucherov, Point, Hagel, Gensel, all played. Andrei Vasilevsky did not play in this one. They probably put a gun to his head and said, sit down. You're not dressing out for this one. Nikita Kucherov didn't get any points, so he finishes with 121 to win the Hart Ross Trophy for a 2nd year in a row. Not only the last game for the Rangers as far as the season, but it was the last game for Hall of Fame broadcaster Sam Rosen. All the players wore number 40 jerseys with the name Rosen on the back in the pregame skate. 40 years he called the Rangers games, and he'll be replaced by friend of the show, Kenny Albert.
Yeah, who's been their radio voice for many years. And Alex Faust, your former Kings announcer, will fill in for Kenny Albert when he's doing national games. So they're in good hands. But, man, Sam Rosen was the cream of the crop for local broadcasters for many years. And I saw they did one more broadcast of him and John Davidson in the booth recently. And
yeah, that was
God,
great.
those two are the best, man.
Yeah.
When I first got the center ice package, that was such an enjoyable broadcast every time. And Sam never knew that John was fed the answers to the trivia questions by the truck and was always amazed by his ability to know all the answers.
That's funny. I didn't know that story. This story is not so funny, involving the Rangers. A former team employee made a sexual assault allegation against star player Artemi Panarin. It was revealed that a settlement was paid to the accuser. This had happened, I think, a year ago. But
yes, it was last season, and
came
the
out about it.
Was paid in August.
Yeah, the news came out about it yesterday or today, Thursday, whenever you're listening to this. It was the day before, I guess. The NHL said it was aware of the situation and that they consider the matter closed.
Yeah, they said they did an independent investigation and found no wrongdoing, I'm sure. Hey, Artemi, did you do it? No. Good enough for us. Close the accounts. If there was no wrongdoing, why did Artemi Panarin and Madison Square Garden, which owns the Rangers, pay this woman a settlement? And why did they all sign a non-disclosure agreement? And why did they all sign why, if you're accused of something you did not do, especially something as heinous as sexual assault, why would you just write this woman a check? It's outrageous that the NHL, we're back at this again with a team covering up a sexual assault by a player or a coach, in this case, a player. It's outrageous. And the NHL is, again, a toothless enforcer of their non-existent rules. They learned nothing from their handling of the Blackhawks situation. Not one damn thing. And it's embarrassing once again.
We had an original 6 matchup on the final day of the regular season. The Leafs pull out a 4-3 overtime win over the Red Wings. Chris Tanev scored with 2 seconds left in regulation, and then Scott Laughton scored the overtime game winner for Toronto. That's Laughton's second goal since he joined the team at the deadline. Austin Matthews scored as well, his 33rd of the year. Joseph Woll started in this one, allowed 3 goals on 34 shots. For the Red Wings, Alex DeBrincat, his 39th goal of the season. Kings hosted the Flames in a makeup of a postponed game due to the LA wildfires. Flames get a 5-1 win. 3 players in this game, playing in their first ever NHL games, scored goals. 2 of them for Calgary, Sam Morton and 19-year-old defenseman Zane Parekh, former first-round pick, 9th overall in 2024. He looked pretty good. And Taylor Ward for the LA Kings, 5th time since expansion that 3 players playing in their first NHL games all scored goals in those games. And Zane Parekh, interesting looking fellow. I was curious as to his heritage, part Indian and part South Korean. So yeah, he looked pretty good. Big story though in this one. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, worth mentioning in this game that there were 3 different players that scored their first goal of their career in their first game that they've ever played. 2 of them were for the Flames, and one of them was for the Kings. Now, the guy for the Flames, one of them, very interesting looking fellow, and I looked him up. He's part Indian and part South Korean.
I just muted your microphone. The big story for the LA Kings, though, was Quentin Byfield was back in the lineup, looked completely fine. It's one of those things where, why are you playing him? But apparently he wanted to get one game in before the playoffs, so he looked like he was fine.
Yeah. And I will say this about the Flames, and I didn't mention it earlier. Dustin Wolf ended up with 37 career wins. So he's tied with John Gibson and Alex Nedeljkovic for most wins by a U.S.-born rookie goalie in NHL history. Eddie, where is he from?
He is from the garlic capital of the world, Gilroy, California.
That is correct. Not a lot of NHL players coming out of Gilroy.
No.
Vampire free since 1903.
Yeah, I did see that one of the other, was it Sam Morton from who scored his first NHL goal? He's from California as well. So never heard of the place he was from, but apparently it's probably around here.
That is a small town considering the places we've been.
Well, that's not necessarily true. I mean, you want me to look and see where he's from? Maybe
because you and I we called games in some of the smallest towns in California.
You probably, I mean, there are places around here I've never heard of. So it's not, you know what I mean? There's so many places. It's just,
that's true.
He is from, no. Well, I looked it up earlier and it said he was from, it says here he was born in Lafayette, Colorado. Let me see.
I have not heard of that in California.
Now this is now bothering me now. Oh, I just saw it. There he is. Hold on. This is great. Whatever.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
He's from Benicia. You know where that is? Benicia?
No.
Benicia?
Is it Benicia?
Yes.
Yeah, then I have heard of that.
Okay. Is it around
I have not
here?
heard of Benicia.
Benicia?
Benicia. Yeah, Benicia.
Penicillin? I don't know.
Get a shot of Benicia when you're on your way back from Tijuana.
I'm sure it would make me feel better. You mentioned we were hoping to have one game of importance on the final day of the regular season, and that did not happen because the Blue Jackets were eliminated when the Canadians won. However, the Blue Jackets do end up their season on a high note, 6-1 win over the Islanders for their 6th straight victory. Adam Fantilli gets his 31st. Zach Werenski is 23rd. He finishes with 82 points, the most ever in a season by a Blue Jackets defenseman, and he's also the first Blue Jackets defenseman to lead the team in scoring in a season.
Yeah, it's a pisser for them that they didn't make the playoffs, but a great season and a lot to build on, a lot of momentum going into the offseason. And hopefully next year, this time, they are on their way to the postseason.
Finally, we had a battle of two teams that have been making plans for next season for a while as the Sabres closed out the year with a 5-4 win over the Flyers. Lindy Ruff gets career win number 900 as Buffalo head coach. Only Al Arbor has more wins with one franchise. For Philadelphia star rookie Matvei Michkov had 2 goals, numbers 25 and 26, and an assist. He finishes with 63 points, the same number of points as Macklin Celebrini, but Michkov did score one more goal than the Sharks rookie. Philadelphia offseason will be interesting as they will be looking for a new head coach. Maybe it's Rick Tocchet, maybe it's not. Other teams that will be looking for head coaches as well, almost certainly the New York Rangers, depending on what happens with Rick Tocchet, maybe the Vancouver Canucks, the Chicago Blackhawks also looking for a new head coach. Anyone else you think? Nashville maybe? I don't think
I
so.
think Nashville. I'm hoping Anaheim. I'm not sure. Although Anaheim was 21 points better this season than they were last season, the numbers beyond that are very, very bad. I'm not sure. I don't think there should be too many others because there were so many coaching changes during the season. So I don't think there's going to be too many guys fired at the end of this season.
All right, let's take one final look at the standings. We start in the Atlantic Division. The Toronto Maple Leafs winning the division for just, I think it was the third or fourth time.
Third time since
post-expansion. 108 points for the Leafs. Tampa Bay finishes second with 102, so they will host Florida in that magnificent first-round playoff matchup, which we will talk about in the second period of the podcast. Ottawa is in. Montreal is in. Nobody saw that.
No.
97 and 91 points for those two squads, and you had Detroit and Buffalo and Boston finishing last, all those 3 teams not in the playoffs this year. In the Metropolitan Division, Washington Capitals leading the East with 111 points. Carolina Hurricanes, 99 points. New Jersey Devils, 91 points. They will obviously play each other in the first round. Blue Jackets, as we mentioned, just missing out with 89 points, followed by the Rangers, Islanders, Penguins, and Flyers.
If the season had another week, Columbus would have passed New Jersey in the standings, but 2 points shy.
In the Central, your President's Trophy winners, the Winnipeg Jets, 116 points on the season. Dallas finishes second, but leaking oil badly. Colorado is third, so they'll face in the first round of the playoffs. Be interesting to talk about that one in the second period. Minnesota and St. Louis making it in with 97 and 96 points, respectively. Then you had Utah, Nashville, and Chicago.
Yeah, surprising that we got 5 teams from one division in each conference this year.
And in the Pacific, Vegas 110 points, LA 105 points, and Edmonton 101 points. So all the top 3 teams in the division all go over 100 points. Calgary 96, first team on the outside looking into the West. Then you had Vancouver, Anaheim, Seattle, and San Jose. There you have it.
All right, let's get to the second period so we can start talking about the playoffs because we got some juicy matchups to discuss.
All right, that'll do it for our first period for our YouTube show. If you enjoyed it and want to hear more, check out the remaining 2 periods of our podcast. Search Puck Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. If you're listening to the podcast, second and third periods are coming right up. If you are watching on YouTube, I'm Eddie Garcia. He's Doug Stolhand. We'll talk to you next time with another edition of the Puck Podcast.